We are going to step back in time to October 1971. The place? Central Florida. The event? The opening of the Walt Disney World Resort. I've chosen 1971 because it represents a completely different era of the American family vacation. This was before the stress of booking apps, before lightning lanes, and before a family trip cost the same as a down payment on a house. In 1971, the Florida project was brand new. It was advertised not just as a theme park, but as the vacation kingdom of the world. So, let's have a look at what a day at Disney World cost back then compared to the complex, high-speed reality of 2025. We are going to break down the prices, but more importantly, we're going to look at the experience, what you actually got for your money. You might want to sit down for this because the inflation percentages on some of these items are frankly unbelievable. Here is what a day at Disney World looked like in 1971. Your day started at the Magic Kingdom Toll Plaza. In 1971, parking your car cost exactly 50 cents. Today, standard parking at Disney World is $30 per day. That represents a 5,900% increase. But let's talk about the arrival experience. In 1971, you were parking in the middle of nowhere. Orlando was a sleepy town surrounded by orange groves and cattle ranches. When you rolled down your window to pay that 50 cents, the air actually smelled like citrus and humidity, not exhaust fumes. There were no preferred parking tiers or upcharges. You paid your 2 quarters, you parked, and you hopped on a tram. The tram was driven by a smiling cast member who didn't look exhausted. It was the first step into the bubble, and it cost less than a candy bar does today. This is the number everyone talks about, but few understand the context. In 1971, an adult general admission ticket cost $3.50. A child got in for $1. Now, hold on. Before you start crying, we have to look at the structure. That $3.50 just got you through the gate and onto Main Street. It didn't include the rides. Today, a single-day, date-based ticket to Magic Kingdom can peak around $189 depending on the season. That is an increase of roughly 5,300%. But here is the quality check. In 1971, the park was pristine. It was brand new. There was no peeling paint, no overflowing trash cans. The capacity on opening day was barely 10,000 people. Today, you are fighting crowds of 50,000 or more. In 1971, you paid $3.50 for the privilege of walking into a world that felt optimistic. Today, you pay nearly $200 just to enter a world where you have to stare at your phone to manage your day. Since admission didn't cover rides, you bought a ticket book. The best value was the 7 Adventure book, which cost $4.50. This book contained coupons labeled A, B, C, D in the coveted E-ticket. The A tickets were for the small stuff, like the Main Street vehicles. The E tickets were for the headliners. The Haunted Mansion, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and It's a Small World. If we combine admission, $3.50, and a big ticket book, $5.75 for the 11 Adventure Superbook, your total day costs $9.25. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $70 today. Yet the actual price today is nearly triple that. The shrinkflation here is in the freedom. In 1971, if you wanted to ride the Haunted Mansion again, you just bought another e-ticket for 90 cents. Today, if you want to ride it quickly, you have to buy Genie Plus or Lightning Lane, wait for a reservation window, and hope the app doesn't crash. We traded paper coupons for digital anxiety. If you really wanted to splash out, you stayed on the property. In 1971, there were only 2 hotels, the Polynesian and the Contemporary. A standard room in the Contemporary Resort, the one with the monorail going right through the building, started at $29 a night. Let that sink in. $29. Today, a room in the main tower of the Contemporary starts around $900 and can easily go over $1,200 a night. That is an inflation rate of over 3,000%. But look at the room quality. In 1971, these rooms were huge. They had a mid-century modern aesthetic that was actually authentic, not retro-styled. You had a view of a castle that wasn't surrounded by construction cranes. Housekeeping came every day, and they actually cleaned the room, changed the sheets, and left mints. Today, for $900, you often have to request housekeeping, and the luxury feels mass-produced. If the modern A-frame wasn't your style, you went across the lagoon to the Polynesian. A room there was also $29 to $44 per night. The atmosphere in 1971 was genuinely relaxed. This was the era of the tiki culture revival. You were greeted with actual leis made of flowers, not plastic. Today, the Polynesian is a construction zone of DVC towers and bungalows that cost $3,000 a night. The vibe shift here is massive. In 1971, the Polynesian felt secluded. It was a tropical escape. Today, it's a high-traffic thoroughfare for bloggers and people trying to get to the transportation and ticket center. You paid $29 for tranquility. Today, you pay $1,000 for noise. You've been walking around Frontierland and you're hungry. In 1971, a hamburger at Pecos Bill Cafe was roughly 55 cents. A cheeseburger was 65 cents. Today, a basic cheeseburger meal at a Disney quick service spot is around $13. That's a 1,900% increase. But let's talk ingredients. In 1971, Disney food was actually provided by sponsors like Oscar Mayer or Frito-Lay, but it was prepared simply. The fries were hot, the bun was toasted. Today, the shrinkflation in theme park food is notorious. The patties are pre-cooked pucks, the buns are dry, and you're eating it off a table that hasn't been wiped down in an hour because the park is understaffed. In 1971, a 55-cent burger was fuel for adventure. Today, a $13 burger is a regret. Just like in the real world, Coke was everywhere in the Magic Kingdom. A cup of Coke was 15 or 20 cents. But the difference was the presentation. In Tomorrowland, you could visit the Terrace Buffeteria and get a futuristic drink experience. Today, a fountain soda is $4.50 or $5. That's a 2,000% increase. And remember, in 1971, this was real sugar Coke. High fructose corn syrup hadn't taken over the world yet. The ice was crushed perfectly. It was served in a waxed paper cup with the old-school Disney World globe logo, something people pay $50 for on eBay today. Now you get a paper straw that dissolves in your mouth before you finish the drink. You couldn't leave without the classic souvenir, a pair of black felt Mickey Mouse ears with your name embroidered on the back cost $1.50. Today, a basic pair of ears is $29.99. The designer ears are $50 or more. That is roughly a 1,900% increase. But look at the ears themselves. The 1971 versions were made of thick, durable felt. The plastic ears were rigid. The embroidery was done by a skilled cast member on a heavy industrial sewing machine right in front of you. It was free personalization. Today, the ears are made of cheap polyester foam that degrades in the sun, and the personalization is often a sticker or an iron-on. We traded craftsmanship for fast fashion. This attraction represents the biggest loss of value. In 1971, this was the flagship e-ticket ride. It cost 85 cents or 90 cents if you bought an individual ticket. You got to board a submarine, go underwater, technically, and see animatronic fish, divers, and a giant squid. It was massive, immersive, and expensive to run. Today, it's gone. They filled the lagoon with concrete and built a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train coaster. To ride that coaster today, you usually have to pay for an individual lightning lane, which can cost $20 per person on top of your admission. You are paying 20 times more for a ride that lasts 2 minutes, whereas the submarine voyage was a sprawling 20-minute epic. A D-ticket, you could board the Skyway buckets and fly from Tomorrowland to Fantasyland. It offered the best views of the park. It was peaceful. It was also a little dangerous by modern standards. Just a bucket hanging on a wire. Today, the Skyway is gone, replaced by walking, or if you're outside the park, the Skyliner, which is efficient but lacks the charm of being right over the crowds in the Magic Kingdom. This is a case where the experience simply no longer exists at any price. In 1971, the Crystal Palace wasn't a character dining zoo. It was a buffeteria, a cafeteria-style restaurant. you could get a carved roast beef dinner with potatoes and a vegetable for around $2.50. Today, lunch at the Crystal Palace is a fixed-price character meal that costs $61 per adult. That is a 2,300% increase. In 1971, you walked in, grabbed a tray, and ate in a beautiful glass Victorian greenhouse. It was quiet. Today, it is a chaotic, loud environment where you're paying for the privilege of hugging Winnie the Pooh. The food quality has shifted from Sunday roast style to mass production banquet food. Riding the monorail in 1971 was an attraction in itself. In fact, if you weren't staying at a hotel, you could buy a round-trip ticket on the monorail for free if you had a park ticket, or a small fee if you were just visiting. The voice on the speakers said, "Please stand clear of the doors," and it felt like the future. The trains were the Mark IV models, sleek, futuristic. Today the monorail is often broken down, smells like a damp gym bag, and is incredibly overcrowded. In 1971, it was the highway in the sky. Today, it's just a stressful commute to the gate. You needed to capture the memories. A roll of Kodak Instamatic film, 20 exposures at the Camera Center on Main Street, was around $1.25. You had to be selective. You only had 20 shots. You made them count. Today, we take 500 photos on our iPhones for free, but we rarely look at them. In 1971, you paid for the film, paid to develop it, and waited a week to see if you cut Dad's head off in the photo. The cost was higher in effort, but the physical photo album from 1971 is a treasured family heirloom. The 5,000 photos on your iCloud will likely vanish when you stop paying the subscription. Before the Dole Whip craze, there was the Citrus Swirl at the Sunshine Tree Terrace, sponsored by the Florida Citrus Commission. It cost 25 cents. It was real orange juice and vanilla soft serve. Today, a similar treat is $6. That's a 2,300% increase. But the context is key. In 1971, the Orange Bird was a cultural icon created specifically for the park. The oranges were likely grown 10 miles away. Today, the ingredients come from a global supply chain, and the connection to Florida agriculture is purely marketing. This attraction was free with general admission, or required a low-tier ticket later on. In 1971, it was a marvel of robotics. Richard Nixon was the sitting president, and his animatronic was brand new. The show was a serious, patriotic tribute. There was no political cheering or booing from the audience. It was dignified. Today, the attraction is often a heated political environment. The technology has improved. The robots move smoother. But the shared sense of American unity that existed in that theater in 1971 seems to have inflated away along with the dollar. This isn't a price, but it's a cost of freedom. In 1971, Disney had a strict dress code. Men wore collared shirts, women wore dresses or nice slacks. No long hair on men, hippie culture was banned at the gate, no sleeveless shirts. It made the park look classy. It felt like a special occasion. Today, people wear pajamas, swimsuits, and shirts with offensive slogans. The visual inflation is real. The crowd looked like they were attending an event in '71. Today, the crowd looks like they are at a chaotic bus terminal. I mentioned 10,000 people earlier. On a busy day in 1971, you might wait 20 minutes for an e-ticket ride. Today, a 20-minute wait is considered a miracle. 90 minutes is standard for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train or Space Mountain. In 1971, your dollar bought you time. You could ride the Haunted Mansion, get a burger, ride the riverboat, and see the parade all at a leisurely pace. Today, you are paying hundreds of dollars to stand in line for 6 hours of your 10-hour day. To get to Florida, you probably flew. A round-trip ticket from New York to Orlando on Eastern Airlines was around $80. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $600. Surprisingly, air travel is one of the few things that has stayed somewhat comparable or even got cheaper in real terms. You can fly JetBlue for $200 today. However, in 1971, that $80 got you a hot meal, legroom, and a stewardess who treated you like a guest. Today, you are treated like cattle, squeezed into a seat that is 3 inches narrower, and charged $50 to check a bag. The price is similar, but the dignity is gone. Opened with the park in '71. An e-ticket ride, 85 to 90 cents. The effects in 1971 were practical. Pepper's ghost tricks, physical props. It was tangible magic. Today, they are constantly adding digital projections. They look better technically, but they lack the soul of the 1971 original. And of course, the exit gift shop. In 1971, you just walked out. Today, you are funneled into Memento Mori to buy a $40 t-shirt. Let's bring it back to reality. How hard was it to afford this trip? In 1971, the median household income was roughly $10,000 a year. A week-long trip to Disney for a family of 4, hotel tickets, food, might cost around $300 to $400. That was 3% to 4% of a family's annual income. It was a stretch, but doable. Today, the median income is around $80,000. A week-long trip to Disney for a family of 4, staying at the Contemporary with food and Genie Plus? You are looking at $8,000 to $10,000. That is 10% to 12% of a family's annual income. The cost burden of a Disney vacation has tripled relative to our wages. In 1971, a middle-class factory worker could take his family to the vacation kingdom every few years. Today, that same worker is priced out, or going into credit card debt to make it happen. So there you have it. $1 in 1971 didn't just buy you entry. It bought you a ticket to a world that was cleaner, quieter, and significantly more affordable than the one we have today. We've traded the simplicity of the ticket book for the stress of the smartphone app. We've traded the 55-cent burger for the $13 disappointment. But mostly, we've traded the idea that a family vacation should be accessible for the reality that it is now a luxury good. It makes you wonder, if Walt were alive to see the prices today, would he even be able to afford a ticket? I'm going to keep digging into these lost prices of the past. If you enjoyed this trip to 1971, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.